Hey everyone, it is Monday night. Oh my gosh, it's almost spring. Actually, technically, it is spring. We've passed the equinox. It's so good to see you. Hey Melinda, good to see you.
Hi.
Lee, Lexi, hi everyone. How are you? Everyone doing great? Good. I've been talking with Debbie. Who has a win that they would like to share?
Okay, I'll go. I feel like I always go.
Good. Keep going. That's good. That means you're having wins. I'm so grateful for that.
Okay,
That's
this
great.
is this is so small and it might even seem silly, but I'm telling you guys, it was wild. It was the wildest thing and it made me think of Peggy. Okay. I'm I got it. I'm in Detroit and the traffic here is like it's insane. And I have this tiny little beady like rental car and I'm trying to make my way around this city and I get in this wrong lane. I get in the straight lane and I need to be in the left-hand turning lane. And like in St. George, Utah, that's not a big deal. But when you're in Detroit, that's a big freaking deal. Like you're screwed. And so
Yep.
I'm like, I'm
And
just
you have
sitting.
Michigan left-hand turns coming too. I don't know if you had one of those, but go on.
Uh,
Yeah. And so I'm looking and the light's red and their light's red and there's cars going everywhere. And I said, wouldn't it be wonderful if the left hand turning lane turned green and it stayed green for so long that it ended all the cars and I could whip over there? And it happened.
That is
Like,
not small or insignificant. Thank you for sharing that. That's fantastic.
like, what are the chances?
100%.
I was like, oh my gosh, I have to share that. So there's a
Yeah,
win.
that's great. I love it. Debbie and I are Michiganders. We're from the other side of the state. We're both from the Holland area. So, and my
Okay.
husband was living in Detroit when we met. So yes, I'm aware of what what you're experiencing there. But that's so great. I mean, isn't that an amazing thing? And listen, in this book, and Abraham Hicks, and we're going to talk a little bit about belief today. Not a little bit. The whole day is really about belief. We're going to talk a little bit about the terror barrier. But in here, she says her part of her their wisdom that they impart is, buttons or castles. It's just as easy to manifest a long left-hand turn green light as it is a castle, $1 million, etc. Right? We don't believe that, but it is true. The mechanism of the law of attraction is always working on our behalf if we allow it, if we're not putting resistance in the system. And she talks about future pacing or segment intending. So when you say, wouldn't it be nice if, you could have worried yourself into a terrible situation where someone was beeping their horn at you and it was really unpleasant, and you would have been very uptight and very tense, but you were just very calm and cool, collected, and put no resistance in the system and said, wouldn't it be nice if, what did you say? Wouldn't it be wonderful if?
Wouldn't it be wonderful?
Yes, yes. So, one of the things I want to say to you all is that you can do, and I want you to play with this from now on out, is if you wake up in the morning, which we all do, hopefully, when you wake up in the morning, if you're thinking about a situation that isn't pleasant, like going to the dentist or going to a doctor's appointment or making a long drive or flying, you can segment positively intend it, positive segment intending, where you say, wouldn't it be nice if everybody I meet is really helpful? I breeze right through TSA. My luggage appears right when it's supposed to. I get a free upgrade. I get, a nice this, that, or the other thing. Lee's like the pro now at getting hotel upgrades. She can guide us on that. But, this is how we can live. And when we're in that energy and in that vibration, it works. It really works. And when it doesn't, I always say to myself, okay, that or something better. Everything's always working out for me. That or something better. My daughter was upset this week because she didn't get a job she applied for. And I said, oh, honey, that job wasn't meant for you. Something better is coming. But this is a belief system and a positionality where we position ourselves to say life is friendly, life is for us, everything's always working out for me. And if something goes the way I didn't expect, it's a lesson or a blessing, and that or something better is coming. I love that. That's not small. So what is the point about buttons and castles? You manifested that by saying, wouldn't it be wonderful if? And you can apply that to becoming a millionaire, to attracting your soulmate, to having a promotion at work, to winning the lottery. I mean, there's just so much that this whole system swings on, and it can be a small thing or a big thing. Nothing's big or small, but thinking makes it so. So thank you for sharing that. That's wonderful. Absolutely love it.
Sure.
So good. Who else has a win that they would like to share?
Okay. Here, wait, hold, let me take my blur off. I do this every time. I try
That's
to show people
okay.
stuff, and then I'm like, blur my background. So yes, this is spring. Spring has sprung in New York.
Oh, that's
There
beautiful.
are, that's a tree on the corner. I have some other stuff that like very little blossoms, one
Mhm.
tree that
Are
has
those
blossoms on it.
dogwoods or
They are,
magnolias?
they're dogwoods or cherry blossoms. I do not know my trees very well.
Nice.
This is down on Brooklyn Bridge Park. This
Nice.
tree I went and communed with yesterday because I
Nice.
was needing strength, and I actually went, I didn't hug it. I wanted to.
That's
I
okay.
I went and held on to the tree and tried to feel grounded and feel and as much as I'm struggling, I really kind of feel like things are kind of like in like sync. It's like we're doing this. My therapist, we're working on stuff in the body. I'm doing this. My sister mentioned my brother-in-law. I'm gonna email him. He deals with graduate students with resumes. I'm like,
Great.
I'm starting to look for the stuff where I'm starting to look for positive. So that's a positive in and of itself.
That's awesome. Lexi, got anything going well for you?
I'll be honest, I'm still struggling. I don't know. I have no idea why. I don't know. It's super
Okay,
weird.
we'll talk.
But on a
Let's
really
connect.
big positive though, my husband and I have had like the past year, we just had our 12-year anniversary, but this year has been definitely the hardest. And so that's been kind of strange, but we've been doing so well. We had the last couple of weeks were just feels like back to like our normal good selves, and I like can't even tell you how much I appreciate and how happy that makes me. So
Yeah,
that's a great thing.
that's a huge one.
Huge win. Yeah,
That
really,
is a
really
huge
big
win. Listen, what's
Yeah.
more important than a relationship of that significance? You have children. That's huge.
Yeah,
I want to just, and I love your wins, and I hope you're all okay with this. I want to just dovetail on this because it's such I think a teachable moment where when we're struggling with something, let's say our struggle is with money, or let's say our struggle is with our health, and we feel like, oh, not making any progress on that, but then you're having this beautiful breakthrough, right, in your marriage. Sometimes what's really helpful is to just put down, I think I talked about this either with you all last week or with my graduate students. If this is the stick of money and all you can feel is resistance, or the business, like, oh, nothing's happening, it's not working, things aren't going the way I want, and you're trying to get over here, if you can't do that, just put that stick down and pick up the one that is working. Be grateful for the fact that it's spring in New York. What's more beautiful than that? Or you manifested this cool, traffic flow. Like, that's real power right there. And that the fact that your marriage is doing well, I think is worth celebrating, because that doesn't happen by accident either. And so, celebrate that and focus on that, and then say, and I want to accelerate my results in another area of my life, and I'm going to work on that as well. Well done. Congratulations. That's huge. Love it.
Thank you.
Your hair looks fabulous too, always.
Oh,
so I think you should
I
count that as a win every day.
I've been very lazy today, so I feel I'm not feeling so great today. So I was like, oh, I thought about blocking the the screen.
No, don't do
no.
that.
It's like,
No,
I
no,
think they
no.
don't care anymore. It's okay.
No, we don't. Or I took a shower just because it'd been a day. I kind of have had a few days of that too. Lee, what do you have for us? How's it going over there in the channel?
Hi. Well, our
Hi, Lee.
clocks changed yesterday, so I have to say I'm shattered. I hope I'll stay with you the whole of the session,
Okay,
but I can't promise.
no worries.
With all of the changes,
Mhm.
my wins are not really, they're significant to me, but they're much as you were referencing. The Facebook ads that I've had out for Your Intelligent Heart, I've actually had 270 plus people that have
Wow.
responded and
That's
that have
amazing.
downloaded my video or audio to be able to help them, which I feel is, it just blows my mind. And I also learned that it didn't include the video that I did for them as part of the ad. So I have that yet to bring out the bag. So
Nice.
that's, I'm feeling very humbled
Mhm.
that I've been able to help that many people
Yeah, and that's just the
in
beginning.
a space of time.
Yeah, that's just the beginning.
The other thing is, and I'd reference to you, is that I got, because Bob told us to get it. The
Oh,
Edinburgh,
yes. Yes.
um,
Thomas Troward. Yes, of course.
and although I've had guests in and trying to do the different hours with the states and
Right.
look up guests and be up for breakfast and be on, I have locked myself away when I've been able to and going through this. And my win is really on knowledge.
I love it.
And I am brought to mind the saying that you use, that you can't put something back in the bottle or something like that.
Right.
I'm not the same person that I was last week.
No.
I
No.
can't.
That is
still
a
find it-
mind.
It's
Yeah. A
Yeah.
mind once expanded, right? You can never now, hopefully, we can forget, but Lee, I love that, because once your mind expands, you really can't go back. You are fundamentally changed. And that's what's so powerful about the work we do here. And if any of you feel yourself in a slump, always go back to the work. I find when I fall off the work, I can feel it. I can feel it, like, I become at the effect of my circumstances. I forget that I'm the co-creator of my life. I lose track of my power. I become, down, pessimistic about certain things, controlled by outside circumstances. Like, this is the mortality or humanness that we experience. But that book of essays that Lee has, and I can put it, I think, in the PDF in the WhatsApp, or if you would like it, I can email it to you. But that Bob Proctor thinks that is he said to me, he thinks Thomas Troward, and he studied everybody, Neville, C. Harry Roeder, Hill, all of these people, Earl Nightingale was his hero. He said that Thomas Troward was one of the most powerful writers in the last 500 years, that those essays were so powerful. And there's one in particular in there called Yourself. Have you read that one yet?
Well, these are the lectures, and there isn't
Oh,
one.
those are the lectures. Those aren't the essays necessarily.
These are quite heavy,
Yes.
not
Yeah,
easy
they're
read.
dense. Yeah.
But they make a great deal of sense in conjunction with all that we've been studying.
Mhm.
But this is £2.50. It's printed by Amazon because it's
Yeah.
so fundamental for everyone to get.
Yeah.
And it frankly, I would say it's worth, well, it's pure gold.
Yeah. No, it's very good. I have his essays, which Bob had us reading in the higher levels that we did with him. And there's 3, and we'll talk about this on Thursday. I'll make a note to talk about that on Thursday, but well done. Listen, this is everything we're doing here is about raising our awareness and learning the truth, some basic fundamental truths about how life really works. I've been playing around with a book title, and it's had all these different incarnations, and one of them is How Life Really Works. Which is just so straightforward and so simple. Because imagine if you had learned this from our parents. I think we come in knowing it, and it gets educated out of us. Isn't that an oxymoron? That we come in knowing that we are perfect. We come in knowing that we are infinite beings. We come in knowing our perfection, knowing how to ask for what we want, loving ourselves fully. And then slowly, that all gets, turned around. But here's the beautiful truth. It's never too late. And we're here today, and we are where we are. And each and every one of you has this amazing infinite potential inside of you. And you came here. You, Lexi, you came here with a mission and a purpose. You, Melinda, you, Lee, you, Debbie, Deanna and Joni, everybody came here as this magnificent spirit with a mission, on a mission, right? And we just lost our way. And it's not a big deal. It is not a big deal. It is a big deal to the extent that it doesn't help us live the life that we really want and intend to live, and the life that we absolutely can live. But once you learn this, it's like flipping a switch. It's like turning on a light in a dark room. You don't get rid of the dark by fighting the dark. You get rid of the dark by turning the light on. And study is the only way. Study and practice, study and practice, study and practice. And surprise, tonight's lesson is on praxis, which is the integration of belief with behavior. So with that, we're going to jump into, hold on, today's presentation. I love this. And start by talking about lesson 8, and we're going to do a little bit of a review. I love this picture. I hope you will indulge me with my amazing husband. I have to tell you, when I say this process works on everything from buttons to millions or billions, whatever it is that you would love, I'm not kidding. Before I even really knew what was happening, I had a felt sense when I knew it was time for me to leave my marriage. And I was truly guided. Literally, books would fall off the shelf in front of me, and I would read that book, and it would give me inspiration. I think one of them was Liz Gilbert's book on how, she got through a very big trauma. And so, and at that time, I had no idea. I was an unconscious competent. I had no idea what I was doing. And by the way, Bob was at first too. He didn't know for the first 5 years of what he was doing why it was working. He just continued to simply do what his mentor, Ray Stanford, told him to do. So if you're overthinking this, just go back and do the lesson. Have faith in the process. Do the lesson twice a day. Listen to the video. Do the worksheets, and really think during the day about what you're doing, how you're thinking, how you're behaving, what your paradigm is causing you to do. So I attracted Dan. I said to the universe, after I separated from my ex-husband, I said, I'm really ready for something. I'm ready for true love. And I have no idea what it is. I don't know if it's a man or a woman or a cat or a dog or an alien. I'm not batting 1,000 here. So, dear universe, whatever it is, please bring my person to me, because I'm ready for that. Right. And guess who showed up? And my friends couldn't believe it. This is when you're on the right path. My friends were like, you can't be with him. You have to date like 5 people. He lives in Detroit. You live in Massachusetts. He's in the process of divorce. You're in the process of divorce. This is never going to work. this was the common sense that my well-intended friends were trying to tell me. Meanwhile, they were dating all these guys who turned out to be not great guys. So, little story to say that the law of attraction is always at work. The universe is always listening to you and what you're broadcasting. And it can literally be as simple as just saying, "Dear God, dear universe, I surrender. Please help guide me. I will do what you tell me to do. Show me the way." So that's my fabulous husband. So we're going to talk about the call agenda here. We talked about our wins for the week. The power of praxis, the power of belief is so important. And your beliefs literally form the shape of your lives. And what we're doing here is learning how to rewrite our beliefs. Okay. So we're going to talk about power of praxis. We're going to talk about the terror barrier. And I want to hear from you. What have you been noticing about fear and procrastination in your life? And how does it relate to what we're learning in the terror barrier? And then we're going to talk about the worksheets in lesson 8, cover the key points of lesson 8 and the worksheet introduction, and then wrap it up. Okay. So here's a funny thing. William James was one of the earliest psychologists in the United States. He was at Harvard, and he was part of this whole humanistic science of mind movement that we are so fortunate to be the beneficiaries of. And he said, believe, and your belief will create the fact. And what I would like to say is what you believe is true, meaning whatever you believe to be true will in fact manifest into your life. If you believe earning money is hard, it will be hard. If you believe writing your resume is hard, it will be hard. If you believe skiing in powder snow is hard, it will be hard. Today I surprised myself and said, oh, 6 inches of fresh powder. I'm not that great at skiing in powder. That could have been the belief, but instead I was like, I rock at this. I am built for this. And boy, did we have fun today. So, I want to say it's never too late. Your beliefs can change. And we have been so miseducated about who we are. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. I truly believe that more than ever that I've ever believed it. And I believe at the end of this, whatever this is that we're experiencing, it's going to be very interesting to see, what we did and how we lived. But what I want you to know is that there's 2 fundamental beliefs that I want you to accept wholesale today. You are an infinite spiritual being. You have infinite power. If you see somebody else doing something, you can do it. If you don't see somebody else doing it, but you have a dream in your heart, you can do it. And when we get our beliefs in alignment with that, it goes so far. So that's the first belief. You are an infinite being. You have infinite potential. And the second belief that you have to accept is that there are universal laws that govern our beings, govern the way the world works. What you think will ultimately manufacture itself into your lived reality. That is a fact. And it's not what you think just once in a while. And it's not what you think on a conscious level. It's what you deeply hold in your belief system, in your subconscious programming, AKA your paradigms. So that's what the game here is re-educating ourselves to say, wait a minute, every time that belief pops into your head that says, you know what, you can't really do that. It's not worth the trouble. You say, wait a minute, that's a lie. What I know to be true is I can do anything I truly want to do. So believe, and your belief will create the fact. Any questions on that? So far, so good. We're all in alignment with this, right? There's a little fly in the ointment, and I think we all know this, and we're going to talk about that. So we're going to talk a little bit about the lesson 7 worksheets, and I would love some feedback from you on your experience with this. But one of the things we want to do, and lesson 7 is about halfway through the program, we want to review your goal and lesson that we set in lesson 1 and ask yourself, is this really what I want, or is this what I'm settling for? And often our limiting beliefs and our paradigms, they're so sneaky, ladies. They are so sneaky. They'll say to you, yeah, well, You can't really figure out how to do that. That's crazy. If you told somebody that, they think you're nuts. That's never going to happen. You've tried that in the past. And so that shapes and contours our ideas about what we would really love. And it usually, we're hitting the terror barrier right away. And it usually pushes us back off the thing we truly desire. And so that's the one thing I want you to keep asking yourself. Am I really allowing myself to have the fullest version of dream life that I can possibly have for myself? Keep asking yourself that question. You know, I heard someone the other day, a big person in the personal development space, say, the quality of your life is equal to the quality of the questions that you ask yourself. So what we're doing here is really digging deep into our own belief systems in an objective way, not in a beat yourself up way, not in a how could I be so stupid way, because that also can be part of our paradigms. But just to say, wait a minute, I was programmed genetically at birth and environmentally, and I had no control over that. But here's the good news. I know something that probably not 1 out of 1,000,000 people knows, which is I can make a new belief system. I can set new goals for myself. I can let my heart soar in my dreams. So I want you to keep being in the space of, am I really dreaming big enough? Is this really what I want? What do I really want? When anything's possible, what would I love? And then it gets to the second point, which is, if you knew that you had all the talent, ability, and resources that you required to accomplish something beyond that which you are currently working on, what would that goal be? Right? So if you have the awareness, back to Lee's point, her awareness is expanding exponentially. All of ours is by doing this work. If you knew that by setting up a vibrational pattern in your subconscious mind, right? Aligning your thoughts on a conscious level with your belief on a subconscious level, with your behavior on a physical level. If you knew that that's all you had to focus on, you got one job, as they say, right? You got one job. Excuse me. And if you used all the tools you've learned so far and you really did this in earnest, if you knew that, what would you go for? And I promise you that when you live in alignment, in harmony with these universal laws, you will, all the things you need will come to you when you need them. Bob was huge on that. He said, you won't know how you're going to do it. If you did, you'd already do it. It wouldn't even be a C-type goal. It would require no growth. But here's the thing. That's the fun part, is finding out how, is seeing how it's going to happen, seeing where the money's going to come from. I have so many people, you all included, who say, you're never going to believe this, out of the blue. Why do we think it's out of the blue? Because we've been trained to think we have to see it in advance. We've been trained to think we have to hustle and grind to make it happen. I didn't do anything, and $1 million dropped in my lap. Where's the fairness in that? Who cares? Right? Do you care? No, you don't care. But we get so wrapped up intellectually in how it's going to happen, and that we have to work hard for it. And that if good things just come to us, well, where's the fun in that? We got to hustle for our things. Those are all beliefs that if you have those beliefs, and I'm betting we do in this group, I know I do, that we need to rethink that and say, wait a minute, I got one job. I got one job and one job only. My job is to imagine what I want, to use my higher faculties, to live from the inside out, to just be in the joy of, oh my gosh, in the fantasy of it, in the vibrational equivalent of it. This feels so good. I can't wait to see how this unfolds. Everything's always working out for me. And it will all come in divine timing. These are important questions to ask yourselves. And I want to, have you think about that. We're going to go into, this concept of, we have to be willing to be open and ready for something, to receive it. Okay. This is such a powerful quote, and I want you to really internalize this. Are you really ready for the thing you want? Are you accepting that it's going to show up in divine timing, that you're going to do your work? You're going to think about it on a conscious level. You're going to think about it. You're going to believe it on a subconscious level. And you're going to step out every single day to the best of your ability and start moving in the direction of that dream. Your state of mind must be belief and not mere hope and wish. So somehow the power of praxis got in here. We're going to go back and I'm going to be able to see you guys. But I want to open up the floor and say, what struck you, or what do you now see about your own situation as relates to the terror barrier? What observations do you have? Fear, procrastination. Debbie.
I was thinking, as I was looking over it again today, that I had really bounced back into bondage and hearing bondage and stuff, and that's what that feels like. So I almost feel like I want to go back, even if I need to go back to lesson 1 and start again and really, I that's kind of like, I feel like I was doing a little bit better and then I bounced backward. So I want to pick up the momentum again.
Yeah, very good. Well, here's the thing. At least you have the awareness now of what's happening, right? I want you to think about something, and I want each and every one of you to literally, if I had a little tiny hand on a stick, I would like have you all give yourselves a pat on the back. You now know when you're bouncing back into bondage, into your comfort zone. You'll never not be able to know that again. It's like taking the red pill in the Matrix, right? Now, sometimes this can create a feeling of frustration or dissatisfaction, but just know that fear is false evidence appearing real, and you have to just keep going. When you feel it most intensely, that is when you are so close to the breakthrough. Napoleon Hill has a chapter in the beginning of Think and Grow Rich, and it's he talks about being 3 feet from gold. When you are closest, there was a miner who was literally 3 feet from gold, and he gave up. He quit. He didn't persist, and he sold all of his equipment to another family. And they kept digging, and literally within 3 feet, as the story goes, they hit a gold vein that made them, incredibly wealthy. So right at that moment where the fear and the pain feels most intense, that's when you have to hit the gas pedal. That's when you can't look back. That's when you can't let up. You have to move through it. You have to push through it and do the thing you fear you cannot do. Have the conversation, write the paper, go online, do the things you feel you cannot do. Right at that moment, it's most important. Who else has any feedback or observations on observing themselves getting into the terror barrier?
I had it today.
Okay.
I was having a conversation with this man that I'm trying to have a healthy relationship with. And there's a lot of fear coming up for me because this is part of my goal is, a healthy romantic relationship. And we were kind of having this difficult conversation and all this anxiety came up for me. And I say to him, I'm like, wait, just hold on. I've got I called it I've got an X type belief and a Y type idea going on here. And he's like, a what? And I'm like, I said, I'm having anxiety about what we're talking about. And I just thought that was so cool how I recognized it immediately on what was happening. And I was able to even explain it to him a little bit. I'm like, well, I have this belief, and then we're introducing this idea and it's causing anxiety in my body. And I'm like, how cool is that I can recognize that now?
Right. Very healthy. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Well done. And and here's the thing, most people's relationships, the level of conversation is up here when really people are hitting the terror barrier down here. And when you can be transparent and honest and open about what's happening for you and authentic, then you can deal head to head honestly with what's really happening. And I think it makes you vulnerable for sure. But at the same time, I think that's what makes our relationships very rich, is when we can be vulnerable. And if the other person can hold the space for that, that's incredibly powerful. But most people's behavior switches up to cover that feeling of fear hitting the terror barrier, and they revert to behaviors that have nothing to do with being transparent about what you were saying. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. In the past, before I had studied any of this, I would have pushed that down and ignored it
Right.
and just kept having the hard conversation. I wouldn't have taken the time to say, hold up, something's not settling well
Right.
with me.
Right.
And so, yeah, I was so grateful that I had that in that moment. That was good.
I love that. That's great. That is great. Anybody else have an experience with the terror barrier? Lee.
I mentioned last week that I was very, very tired, or the last time we spoke. And I have been thinking about this. And I believe that an awful lot of the time we hold one heck of a lot of tension in our bodies. And part of this learning is actually enabling me to release that. But in so doing, it's also going through those stages in making that possible.
Right.
Yes, I know the time changes and all of that, but I think that that's an additional something or other that just happens to be at this moment. But I'm fairly certain that it is because there is so much tension that I have lived with for decades in my body.
Yeah.
That's part and parcel of going through this process and actually understanding what's going on, which it is, to say it's an eye-opener, it is a bit stupid, but it is, because it makes sort of really deep within you actually understand that you're not bonkers.
The terror barrier, here's what you have to understand. Without hitting that fear, you can't grow. Now, I'm not saying you have to be fearful all the time, but every time we step out to do a new thing, it is not guaranteed that it's going to be like seamlessly smooth, right? It's like learning to ride a bike or learning to walk. What's really fascinating is if kids didn't have the persistence and follow that desire for growth and for doing more and achieving more, we would still be crawling around, right? We wouldn't be upright. Like, people figured out how to walk, but it probably involved a lot of head banging and knee cutting and falling down. And, that is the deal. We have to be willing to go through that terror barrier for growth, which is ultimately what we're here for. How exciting is it when you try to do something or put yourself, not try, you make a decision, I'm going to learn how to run a marathon. Or like in my case, I learned how to ski. I was thinking about it today. I learned how to ski when I was in my 30s. And of late, I have been skiing for the last 33 years pretty effectively. But lately I have onboarded some extra pounds during COVID. I have a knee condition. I have a torn meniscus. I actually broke my leg skiing 2 years ago. And at first I was like, oh, you're 63, maybe you can't ski anymore. You know what? I changed my belief about that, and I went through the terror barrier and I did what it took to get my knee put back together. And and I keep putting myself out there. And I'll tell you, at the beginning of this ski season, I was crying on the chairlift. It was not a good look, myself and my husband. And I'm like, my boots hurt, my knee hurts. I don't remember how to ski. I'm afraid I'm going to break my leg again. I think I might blow out my knee. I don't know. Maybe I'm not in shape enough. Like, I just had a complete full and utter meltdown that made me feel like packing my ski equipment in the back of my SUV and just saying, you know what, I'll just snowshoe and cross country ski. And I was like, wait a minute, you're just having a bad day. You know what? And today, and so I persevered through it, and I've started working out with a trainer, doing certain things about my diet, my nutrition, etc. But the point is, today I was out skiing in 6 inches of powder at 63, and the truth is, I don't even really know how to ski in powder that well. But I was like, I'm going to do this, and if I fall, at least it's soft. I'll look funny, but they're ski patrol and they're usually quite attractive. So, I was like looking at the bright side of things, I was like, hey, come on now, so I don't tell you that to impress you, but to say to you that if I wasn't willing to look silly and to fail and to even potentially, break my limbs, I wouldn't have had the joy that I had today of skiing in this incredible, it was just one of those peak moments, no pun intended. So successful people are constantly breaking through the terror barrier. They just get really good at it. They practice it. They practice. If something goes wrong, they pivot. They don't get hung up in the story. They're like, wait a minute, my goal, Elon Musk's goal, is to populate Mars. If he blows up a rocket ship here and there, most people would fold up the tent and go home. He's like, it's part of the cost of getting to Mars. That's what's so important here. That's why your C-type goal and your big dreams are so important, because that's what your North Star is. That's what's going to pull you through that terror barrier. If you don't have that constantly in your heart, in your mind, I have the new picture of our new home on my refrigerator. If you aren't constantly reconditioning the subconscious programming of having the feeling of your dream and your wish and your role fulfilled, the terror barrier is going to be much, much harder to break through. You will probably feel the terror barrier several times a day if you're doing this right. In fact, that ought to be a goal. Am I a little bit scared and nervous, right? Am I a little bit out on the edge there? Now, I'm not saying, put yourself in danger, but what constitutes danger is mostly in our ego and fear of being judged, fear of looking imperfect, fear of being laughed at, fear of being ridiculed. That all, if you're doing it right, that should be happening. People should be, people don't throw shots at people who aren't doing big things. The opposite of courage is not cowardice, it is conformity. So I want you to think about the terror barrier in terms of getting good at getting through that, baby. And I want you, if you haven't, to go back and read the white paper. Has anybody read the white paper at the end of lesson 7 on risk taking? Yeah, Debbie has. If you haven't, no big deal. Go back and read it. It's so powerful. It is beyond. He says the taking risks is essential when you want to reach a goal. The real win is the confidence and the experience we acquire, which translates into new opportunities for growth, enjoyment, and expansion in all areas of life. There will be stumbling and falling in the learning process, but success can only be reached when we are prepared to take those steps, all of them, even the ones where we may fall down. Here's the beautiful truth. Your opportunity, all of us who study this material, people say to me, how can I reduce my risk of failure? I'm like, do the work. Visualize yourself winning. See it, feel it, tap into the universe, tap into God, ask for guidance, visualize it done, visualize it working. Does anybody follow Lindsey Vaughn or any of those people that do the giant slalom downhill? I'm sure you've all seen it or you've heard about it. They visualize, they're doing a high risk activity. They're going 90 miles an hour, basically down a very steep sheet of ice. 90 miles an hour on skis. She has broken almost everything breakable in her body. They sit there and they visualize. When you see them at the top before it's their turn, they visualize it going well. They feel it, they see it, they know every turn, every contour. That's what we can do. We have one job. That's what we can do to ensure our success. Now, does that mean it's going to be a straight line, with no learning curve? No, of course not. We're going to learn things, but don't take it failure personally. Failure is not permanent. You only fail when you give up, when you quit. There is no failure. There's just learning. So I want you all to think about that as you move out towards your goals. You have to really be hooked into them emotionally, and on a daily basis, be seeing them and feeling them. Okay. Does that make sense? Yeah. Good. Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to dive into the praxis here. And somehow I think I got my, speaking of failure, I got my slides mixed up. But this is the lesson I want you to study this week. And if you're feeling behind or if you're feeling stuck, here's my challenge to you. Make sure you listen to the lesson at least one time a day and read through the lesson book one time a day. This will take you 30 to 40 minutes tops. Tops. Do it. If you can, listen to the lesson twice a day. Always asking yourself, how can I learn more? How can this help me achieve my goal? This is one of the most powerful lessons because your beliefs, you will never outperform your beliefs, just like you'll never outperform your self-image, just like you can't outperform where your terror barrier is with that set point. And the important thing I want you to keep in mind here is as you go through this lesson, it's going to ask you, what's your current level of income? What are your current level of vacations? This can be a painful process if you're not where you want to be. And if you're here, you're not where you want to be. You want more. Everybody does. You're the brave ones who raised your hands and said, hey, I'm going to figure this out. Write it down, but know that you're going to continue in the lesson and write it out the way you want it to be. Okay, you're rewriting the script of your life. You're rewriting your beliefs. You're rewriting your truth to be, I'm an infinite being. I can do anything that's held in the mind, anything that's either feared or revered must begin immediately to clothe itself in the most convenient form possible. That's one of Napoleon Hill's quotes that he got from Andrew Carnegie. Think about this. Andrew Carnegie was a penniless immigrant, and he became one of the world's wealthiest men. Henry Ford was virtually illiterate, and we are still driving cars with his name on it. Bob Proctor had an 8th grade education. Oprah was fired from her job. Steve Jobs was fired twice by his board of directors, and we're still using his computers and his phones. We all have that capacity. And I want you to go through this lesson and I want you to really dive into what are my limiting beliefs and how can I replace those with empowering beliefs. And there's 2 that I really want you to empower yourself with, which is, I am an infinite spiritual being with infinite potential, and anything I put my mind to, I can and will achieve. If you walked around embodying that belief, and that's what we're going to learn this week, is it's not enough. Like Melinda said, whoa, hold, stop the press here. I got this on a conscious level, but now that I'm getting emotionally involved in it, things are getting a little squirrely. There's only 2 ways. Actually, there's many ways, but I think there's 2 ways that most people use, and the most effective way is the one I'm going to tell you, to change a belief. One is through a sudden impact. if you have a huge sudden impact, the loss of someone, loss in financial status, health diagnosis, loss of position at work, something like that, that has a huge emotional impact, and that can shift people. You see it all the time. People get a diagnosis and they're like, screw this. I'm out of my job. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to live my life that way. That happened to me when my mother died over the course of 6 months at 55. It completely shook my world, and I completely changed what I was doing based on that. Right? So those sudden impacts, 9/11 was a sudden impact here in the United States and all over the world. But those are usually negative, and we don't want to wait for them. It's hard to engineer them in a positive way. The other way, and the most important way, is through the constant spaced repetition of a new belief, a new idea. Your mother didn't just say, hey, Debbie, your name's Debbie. I'm never going to call you that again. Remember it. Right? Like, we have constant information coming into us as children, and those solidify into the form of beliefs. And if you believe you're bad for math, you will never go out and try to be good at math. If you believe at 63 that you're not going to be a great powder skier, you would have put the skis back in the car and, or gone up to the lodge and had a coffee while everybody else skied. Like, our beliefs literally shape what we do. So what this week is about is looking at your beliefs, looking at what your beliefs have produced in your life, and changing it through the constant spaced repetition of new beliefs. And the truth is, most of our beliefs are based on pure BS, pure bullshit. I'll go out and say it. Most of what we believe is so categorically, profoundly misconstrued that when you say it out loud, it makes you laugh. So here's what we're going to do. We have to start to become consciously aware of what our beliefs are and the results that those beliefs have been producing in our lives in the form of results. And we're going to write new beliefs. This I can do. This I will do. I'm an infinite being. As long as I'm doing my work, living in law of alignment, alignment with the universal laws of cause and effect, the law of polarity, the law of rhythm, etc., which are all imbued in this program. As long as we're living in alignment with who we are and what we want, and we hold it in the conscious level as well as the subconscious level, it will do the rest of the work for us. And this is such a beautiful way to live. I don't know if you have listened to that 1 hour talk that Bob did on the co-creative process. But he says this is how we are meant. We are different than every other animal on the planet. We have these higher faculties, and we are meant to live and create the life that we want to live. What's the problem? We don't know how to do that because it's been trained out of us. That's what we're doing here. So I want you to start to think about, not only think about, I want you to start to use this constant spaced repetition to bury in your subconscious mind this concept. This I can do. This I will do. This I shall do. I'm going to get scared. It's okay. I'm going to bust through that. I can do anything I set my mind to. Everything I need, as long as I'm in harmonious alignment with it, vibrational alignment with it, meaning emotionally connected to it, everything I need will show up exactly when I need it. That's when I get the comments, you're never going to believe this. What are the chances? How long do we need to be? Yeah, I'll answer that in a minute. What are the chances that things come out of the blue? 100%. Because it always is happening anyway. This isn't like we're learning a new skill set. We are, but we're learning how to use a process that's always at work. So how often do you have to repeat this? The more the merrier. The more the better. And it's not just about saying to yourself, that's why vision boards are powerful. That's why a voice loop is powerful. That's why writing it out is powerful. That's why thinking about it at night is powerful before you go to bed and in the morning when you get up. But the most powerful thing is practicing throughout the day the feeling of this. And that involves visualization. So, for example, Lee, you know this because you do the heart math, practitioner. You can think things, and this is what this lesson is about. You can think on a conscious level, yes, I can do that. Everybody here would agree with me. Lexa, you'd agree that you could earn $1 million a year, right? I mean, it's not wild, right? It's not wildly crazy. But do you believe it on a subconscious level?
No.
Not as much. Not so much.
Some
But
days I do.
yeah,
Some days I
see,
do.
but here's the thing. On those days when you do, what does it feel like?
Sorry, I don't know.
It's okay. But on those days when you have that feeling like, hey, this is here, it's coming, I don't know how, but I can just feel it. I can feel it. That's the important thing. You're not going to know how. You are going to be blown away by how this stuff shows up. Blown away, always amazed at how it shows up, never surprised that it did. And it's so hard for us to believe. Now we're back to the belief, right? But when we can feel it on a subconscious level, that's the important thing here. Because that means we're in harmonious vibration with it. Okay?
And Peggy, are we doing the repetitive nature of this for
Yes.
as much as a year or 2 years before it becomes something that actually really has a fundamental change in our paradigms?
I've seen people do it in days, weeks, and months.
Okay.
I literally have. Now, that's not for anybody here to beat themselves up with, by the way, including myself.
But what sort of average can you guide us that?
Sure. I would say let's have a belief that it's going to be fast, super fast. Let's incorporate that belief that it doesn't have to take a lot of time. But feeling it is a huge part of it. And that's what this lesson is about, because you can see right here, the non-productive habits are a function of the old programming, of the non-belief, of the I have to work hard. It has to take a long time. What we want is to build a new belief and get emotionally involved. Build a new belief, get emotionally involved. Get a new belief, get emotionally involved. What does this do? This does two things. Number one, it gets our vibration, right? There should be a little line here of vibration. It sets up a vibration of I am a winner. I am a multimillionaire. I walk around this planet like I own the place, right? Then it also, your vibration moves your body into action. And that creates a reaction, attracts to us what I need, what you need. And now all of a sudden you have a new loop. You're like, hey, fancy that. This stuff works. This is amazing, right? So I would say the more time per day you can spend in the feeling of your wish fulfilled, the faster things will manifest. But Lee, the thing that slows the drag on the system is having to know how it's going to work. It's having to figure it out. It's the worry, fear, and doubt. That's all pumping the brakes. Bob always said, everything that ever was, ever is, and ever will be is evenly present in all places at all time. The way to have this phone, the way to have the computer, the way to fly the airplane has always been here, the physics, right? But it took the imagination of someone and a belief to bring it into physical form. But the more time you can spend reprogramming your subconscious mind in the direction of the good you desire. I mean, I was going to share with you guys. So I don't have an exact answer for you, Lee, but I can tell you to accelerate this, to shorten that time frame. Joe Dispenza does a good job of explaining this. We have a human concept of time and space. His hypothesis is that if you do this in a big way, if you totally surrender to it's here, it's happening for me, it's right here, it's here and now, it's here and now, that it literally can show up in days, minutes, weeks, it can happen like that. But usually we have a mindset that says we have to know how it's going to show up. I've had people say to me, it's scary how fast things are showing up. I'm like, you want to stop saying that, because if you're scared by something, you'll stop it from happening. So the other way we can instantly change a belief is just by accepting an idea. This is the way it is. This is how I'm going to believe it. I don't believe it. Bob didn't believe it. When Bob started working with Ray Stanford, Ray was like, Bob, you can have anything you want if you do exactly what I tell you to do. And he said, Peggy, I couldn't believe that for a minute. I had an 8th grade education. I didn't even finish high school. I had no money. I was a child of the Depression, never had a good job, was a loser. He said I was going downhill and picking up speed. But he said, I believed in Ray's belief in me. And I believed in Ray's belief in these concepts. And he started reading Napoleon Hill's book, which, by the way, a lot of this work is based on, the work we're doing is based on Napoleon's work and Andrew Carnegie's life and all these, successful people. But he said, I just kept doing what they told me to do, which was I had a goal card. I kept repeating it over and over again. I kept listening to Earl's records on that little portable record player. He just kept reprogramming his subconscious mind. And I know that sounds simple and easy and silly. I'm like, how powerful can that be? I'm telling you, it is the deal. It is 100% the deal. And the more we can surrender to this, and the more we can just say, you know what? I'm going to do exactly what Bob's telling us to do here. I'm going to do the work. I'm going to listen to the lessons. I'm going to surrender. I'm going to lay down the need to figure it out or go back into the past or doubt myself or beat myself up. I'm just going to let it go and just go with the flow.
Becky,
It's-
that's so true.
Right?
Because sorry, but it's just it's funny because Lee says that, and it's like it reminds me exactly of like I've been in positions before where I've been able to manifest really, really crazy things super fast, and I'm like, wow, this is awesome. And it's so weird because I don't know how to explain it to anybody else when I've been in that moment in the past. Like I don't know how to explain that. I just I feel it so deeply inside of me that I can do this. I know I can do this. And then it's so funny how there are those times where it just like shuts off, And so it's funny because Lee, when you said that, I'm like, well, oh my gosh, Lee, it can happen so fast. You can do anything. But I'm like, well, then why do I stop myself from thinking that way?
Yeah.
But I bet you, if I were to come to any one of you and say anything like that, you would all of a sudden find that like fire, this thing that ignites you inside that says, oh no, you can do this because I've done it before and I know that it's possible. And so it's funny that sometimes we hold ourselves back from it and maybe just out of fear. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of an interesting thing.
And I love that observation. And that's so good. Bridge back to something you did do that you never thought you could do. Like, how crazy is that, right? There's people, I have a really good friend, her name is Margie Feldham. She was working as a $15 an hour contractor at a company that helps people book themselves as guest speakers on podcasts, right? She had a contract, an independent contractor job, $15 an hour. She's now the CEO of the company 2 years later, and they're doing multiple 7 figures. And she struggled with depression and anxiety. Check her out, margie.com, margy.com. She's fabulous. She's amazing. I'm not saying anything she hasn't said publicly. She struggled with anxiety, depression. Her father was a hoarder and committed suicide. I mean, like, she has a podcast called We Get It, your dad died, or something like she's amazing. But what she says is it can change that fast. Nobody would have looked at her and said, oh, she's going to be the CEO of a multiple 7-figure company over the next 24 months. But she is. And now she's going to do bigger and better things. I mean, and we all have that same capacity. I don't say that to impress you, but to impress upon you. That is how fast. And back to your question, Lexi, like, why do we do that? First of all, I want to depersonalize this. We don't do this to ourselves. Our paradigm, which is not us, but it is the software programming, the paradigm is doing this. And we now have the awareness that we have the power to originate thought with our higher faculties, lesson 5. We have the power to rewrite the script of who we are and what we want to do, lesson 6, self-image. We have the power to stare fear in the face and say, you know what? You are not real. That's in my old programming. That's something that's holding me back from way before. But you would never consciously do this to yourself. Right? And what I love about the concept that Esther and Abraham has put forth is it's so simple. When you have contrast, hey, I'm making X a year. I really like to make $1 million. I'd like to make 7 figures or more a year with joy, ease, and grace. Great. You've had contrast. You have this, you want that. I'm unemployed. I want my dream job. Contrast. Great. Now you know what you want. You've asked for it. The universe and God, just like when I said, hey, please bring me unconditional love, someone who's really going to be a true partner to me. And boom, Dan showed up at a party at my neighbor's house in Michigan. I was living in Boston. I mean, like, you couldn't make it up. It was like, you're never going to believe how we met. Well, of course, that's how we met. The universe had all the cooperative components and knew the fastest way to bring us together, right? So when you ask, you have contrast, what you don't want, you know what you do want. Simple. Great. Now I know what I want. Perfect. I want a fabulous business. I want $1 million a month. I want, my soulmate. I want this kind of relationship. I want this kind of job. I want to live in this kind of house. You already know all that. Once you know that, the universe is like, great. Got it. Got all that stuff. Got it. Got everything here. And an inner version of you automatically becomes that, right? But now what do we have to do? We have to bring the belief system, the old software programming, up to speed. That's what slows it down, Lexi, is the belief that we're not good enough, or the belief that we have to do some extraordinary measures, or the belief that I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm too smart, I'm not smart enough, I'm not educated enough, I'm not thin enough, pretty enough. I don't know, fill in the blank, du jour, your limiting beliefs. But that is the resistance in the system. That is the only thing, according to Abraham, that is stopping you from experiencing everything you want. Not simultaneously. They have a good saying which says, you don't want to eat every meal you're ever going to have all at one time, right? You don't want to have all the food you're ever going to eat all in one sitting. That would be terrible. But it's all here. It's all already here. Let's embody the belief that we're infinite beings, we're creative beings, we're co-creating our reality with a power that is incomprehensible to the human imagination on most levels, and that the only thing we have to do is just surrender to it and enjoy the process, enjoy the journey of it unfolding, right? When you find the impatience or the fear or the worry, just be like, I see you, and soften it. Everything's always working out for me. Oh, I didn't get this house, this job, this partner, that or something better. Something better is coming. The universe saw something I didn't see. Is this making sense? Is this helpful? So every day in every way, we need to reprogram our subconscious mind to embrace these basic fundamental truths. And in that way, when we see the resistance and we feel the resistance, we soften it. Like, oh, I'm in worry, fear, and doubt. Okay, what better feeling could I reach for? Well, so far, everything has always worked out for me. So go me. My relationship is working out really well. Yay. You know, I found an extra bit of money that I didn't think I had. I ran into somebody that I had a really good conversation with. Like that kind of thing is really helpful. So we're going to continue to study this lesson. We'll talk about it again on Thursday. But I wanted to share with you, I think Dr. Joseph Murphy, for me,
Can
it's
you make you
very
bigger
helpful.
again?
Pardon me?
Can you make you bigger again?
Oh, me. Yes. I'll
Yeah.
stop this.
Oh, perfect. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. This book is so good.
Magic keys.
Yeah. This is so good. I listen to this one on Audible. If you're in your car a lot, I like to listen to things, but I also like to read. But this book is really good. It's an updated version by this guy, Mitch Horowitz. He works with the Murphy Foundation, but there's so many incredible stories in here about people that came to Dr. Joseph Murphy, who was a teacher of science of the mind back in the 1940s. He was, I think, friends with Neville Goddard and Ernest Holmes. And like the stories are just so inspiring in here. And he just says, this can happen really fast. Like things can happen really fast. You just have to just constantly accept a new idea. He also has this book, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, Subliminal Program. Very powerful. But as you practice this more and more, you're going to see the power of this. And that's why the wins are so important. Track your wins daily. Like go to bed at night, be like, what went really well today? Right. And he even, I think it's Neville who has a process that you do at night. It's either Neville or Murphy, where you rewire what happened to you. If something went the way you didn't expect or want it to go, he has you revision it the way you wanted it to go before you go to bed, so that you don't sit there and cogitate and worry about it. He also wrote this book called Telepsychics. He was very prolific. I mean, you can read this and read this and read this, but the basic thing is reprogram yourself with beliefs that you want, that are going to take you in the direction of what you really desire. Does this make sense? Do you guys have any questions about this? Feedback, ideas? Does this give you hope? Yeah.
These always, our getting together always lifts me up. So hearing all, I need to keep hearing this stuff. If I could get an IV drip of this to me and carry it around, I would. That would be awesome.
Okay. Well, know this. Play with it, experiment with it, set an intention in the morning, set an intention at night before you go to bed. I'm going to wake up in a fabulous mood. I'm going to wake up in a fabulous mood. And then when you wake up, be in that space, visualize your day, how well it's going to go. If you're worried about something, visualize it the way you want it to go, what you believe is true. That would make a great bumper sticker, wouldn't it? What you believe is true. Do you, any of you have any friends who are like a little bit like Eeyore in the, or like, the Charlie Brown, like the person who always expects bad things to happen to them, and lo and behold, they do, sadly? I mean, this is what we believe is true. And you can take two people in the exact same circumstance, and one can come out like on top, and one can come out and just be really beat up by the deal. And so the point here is we have to really be sure that we're constantly thinking about, what would I love? What would be great? What would be amazing? What would I love to be surprised with today? Wouldn't it be nice if? Wouldn't it be wonderful if? And the more we reprogram ourselves, and that's different than reading. You can get inspired by these books. You can get ideas and techniques out of these books. The program we're in gives us a complete playbook. But we have to rewrite the script. We have to do the internal work ourselves, because just being aware of it doesn't change our paradigms. We have to do that work to change our paradigms. But it doesn't have to be hard and arduous, okay? And if you're struggling, anybody, or if you just want to chat, reach out to me. And what I'll do is I'll put some more times, open up some more times. I'm back in Utah now, but I'll open up some more times so we can get together. Even if you just need like a half an hour pep talk, just like, hey, I'm feeling stuck. You know, here's what I'm going through. I want to help you guys get through this. And I know, you know, just if getting on a quick call, it doesn't have to be long. It can just be something to help you shift your perception and your perspective and put a slight fix in. But if you're not doing the work, do the work, because you're going to get the most relief out of doing the work. But I'm happy to talk to you always. So I'll put a link to my calendar, and do the work and look for your limiting beliefs and replace them with better beliefs, because your limiting beliefs you didn't choose, and you've just been living them out because you didn't know better. No big deal. Okay.
Thank you.
Sound good? Talk to you Thursday.
Thanks, Peggy.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.